Hello my Galaxians and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be discussing Tarkov Arena. I'm going to go over some key notes from Battle State's time at Gamescom, but by now most of you have already read or seen everything when it comes to Tarkov Arena. This video will deal more with my thoughts as to what Tarkov Arena means to EFT, both now and in the future. But if you disagree or agree with my thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you think I deserve it, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for future content. I intend to follow Tarkov Arena very closely as we approach the beta release. Tarkov Arena is a standalone game. Those who own Edge of Darkness or EOD will automatically get Arena upon release. Everyone will start off with basic default gear sets. And the gear and stats of the gear, such as ammunition and armor and damage mechanics, will be 100% the same as EFT, according to Nikita. 2 game modes will be available at launch of beta. Shootout, which is kind of like a tournament mode, which would be interesting to see as it pans out. You know, will we be playing against several teams and advancing to the next stage while other teams drop out and finally having one winner at the end? It'd be interesting to see how that plays out. And the second mode will be team fight, which is like team deathmatch, while also having to capture points. Battle State wants to attract competitive esports with Tarkov Arena, according to Nikita. They plan to hold majors, and third parties will even be able to hold their own tournaments as well. It will also be linked in some ways to EFT. Nikita stated that you will be able to transfer some stuff between Arena and EFT and vice versa, such thing as rubles. And he also mentioned some key cards that would be able to be found in EFT that you could use and redeem in Tarkov Arena to have access to certain loadouts, certain gear, either for a certain length of time or permanently, or as a special event. Nikita also mentioned that beta testing will begin later this year. He didn't give an exact date as to when it would start, other than just stating that for sure beta will begin sometime this year. So now on to my thoughts. Having heard all the information from other streamers and people that were at Gamescom during this Tarkov display, it's going to be interesting to see how it changes the landscape of Escape from Tarkov as a whole. I believe that this will increase the skill level of casual players dramatically. And let me explain why. The casual and new players will be playing Arena more often because it's more accessible and it's not as time consuming to progress and level up. All of us have that frustration of starting off a wipe, getting into Escape from Tarkov, getting excited, leveling up, and then getting to a certain level, a certain extent, for us casual players anyways, and then meeting up either with 2 or 3 man teams or players that have been playing hours on end and have already maxed traders, gotten access to certain gear and ammunition. And I know we'll probably get some hate in the comments, and I understand that most times, or many times, not most, but many times, fights are won and lost, not necessarily on gear or ammunition type, but rather on how you play the game. And I totally understand that. But you cannot deny that gear does not play a significant role. If it did not, then people would not be streamers, or other people would not be racing to max out trader levels because they want the access to that gear, obviously. So I believe that as casual players, new players, it'll be more accessible. You won't have to spend as much time to level up in Tarkov Arena. So by default, this will raise the PvP skill level for the average player and close the skill gap in EFT. The other thing is that, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that other thought, but gear fear, I believe, will diminish dramatically. With the ability to earn money through Arena and also the possibility of finding key cards that would give you access to special kits, equipment for a certain time duration, this is going to allow casual players to more freely and confidently run raids without having that dreaded gear fear that most of us have, especially at the beginning of Wipe. And as we all know, well, I strongly believe that the key to being a competitive or a somewhat decent player in Escape from Tarkov is to play with confidence. And you cannot get that confidence level up if you are constantly being bombarded with other players that have already reached max players. It diminishes, and I know I'm not the only one that said this. I've heard plenty of people say this, that it just takes away from the game when you are up against people that play this 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. It sometimes becomes a burden to get in and spend more hours to try to level up when you're hitting these walls, and it's going to change the landscape. I'm just saying it that way. Early wipe dips and late wipe spikes will be more prevalent, I believe. If we consider these points, it isn't hard to see players in early wipe running to Arena quickly to gain the upper hand with either gear or rubles. Once they have built up their character for the wipe, players will more than likely last longer into the wipes, which would translate into more full lobbies later on. This could be a win-win situation for all those involved. I know there's a lot of streamers that particularly don't care too much for late wipes. I mean, they do, but the complaints that they have is that the lobbies are empty. Nobody's playing. Why aren't they playing? Well, because the only people that are there are people that have reached maxed traders or have gotten all the gear that they needed. The ones that are not there, which is the vast majority of the player base, is the casual players or the new players. They usually drop out in late wipe, but I see that changing for the reasons that I explained earlier. If new players or casual players are able to level up quicker and close that skill gap to play more confidently, I can see them playing longer into the wipes, which would translate into a different experience for all involved. Although I predict the skill gap to be small between casual players and streamers, they will never be equal as a whole. It just never will. If one works 8 hours a day, perfecting his craft, whatever they do for a living, while another person just dabbles in that just as a hobby from time to time, they will never be able to be fully aligned in skill. It's an impossibility. And this goes for EFT. It goes for Escape from Tarkov. I can see Arena becoming a more competitive space for both casual and experienced players, where the playing fields are better leveled, which would translate to longer wipes for the casual and new players. But we all know that there is absolutely no way that the skill gap will be fully aligned between streamers or professional players and the casual and new players. So in conclusion, I see EFT becoming more competitive from a PvP perspective, and wipes being full of players longer into the wipe. The skill gap will definitely become smaller to a certain extent, but it will never be closed 100%. Anyways, guys, these are just my thoughts on the latest news that we have on Tarkov Arena. Again, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think at the comments below, if you agree, disagree, and I will see you in the next one.